Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into the high-stakes courtroom saga of music mogul Diddy. Let's listen to what Joe Budden had to say.
No, nigga, you can't kill Mark Simpson, though. Just can't do it.
What else needs our attention? The Puff charges, the Puff case?
Yeah, Mel had this queued up for a while.
Yeah, you put your
Shout out
readers on, girl.
My girl had it queued up for a while.
Hey.
Take us out of here, Mel.
All right. The prosecution delivered their closing arguments yesterday. It was 4 hours. Her name was Christy Slavic, and
That's basically presenting the case again.
Basically, well, that's what they basically have to do. They have to submit.
For 4 hours, you presented the case.
Yeah.
And I think after an hour and a half,
you lose the jury.
The jury's sitting there about to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like, it sounded like wah, 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 wah at that point.
Yeah. So basically for counts 3 and 5 to convict Combs and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, she said the jury must find that he knowingly transported an individual in interstate or foreign commerce, et cetera, et cetera. So it was, I mean, I have a recording of people who were like, you know, did like a summation of what she said. Like a minute and a half.
Please.
Okay.
I'd love to hear a summation.
Bill Maher came out publicly and said something about it. And it caught a little bit of traction. He was basically kind of in support of Puff.
You got a clip? I'd love to hear it.
Did they say who they're alleging was a part of this so-called conspiracy?
They did, and they actually showed their pictures during this presentation. They showed KK, Christina Karam's face, Combs' former chief of staff, Fahim, one of his security guards, D-Rock, another security guard, Uncle Polly, and a guy named
No, I ain't gonna lie. I'm sorry, babe.
No worries.
Please.
No worries. Okay.
Yeah.
Showed Shepard. Showed Johnny.
Those sound just like the voices I imagine
dead ass
telling Mel
seriously.
what's going on the internet.
It was Andrea Canning from Dateline.
I love Dateline, but that sounded. Anyway, come on, let's put some put some soul in this story.
Dog, I still think it's 50-50. It might actually be about 60-40. I think Puff's way.
Puff way?
I think he'll get found guilty on the prostitution charges. And from my understanding, they allegedly dropped the arson charge and I think the attempted kidnapping charge that were tied into the racketeering shit. Just from my reports that I've been seeing, in my opinion, I think they'll find him guilty on the charges, but I don't think they could prove the conspiracy and the RICO shit. Like, because it's organized crime, that's a hard charge, I think, for them to prove. But I'm not an attorney, so that's just my opinion.
Neither am I, so I can't speak to whether charges were dropped or not. Everything I'm reading was they directed the jury to not pay any attention to that part of
the arson and all that shit. Right?
Yeah. And I don't know if that's dropping, but to them, they're simplifying the case for the jury to pay attention to these things that we think we got them on.
Gotcha.
And not, like I said, the Puff people was moving for a mistrial every time they got up there and said some shit that they couldn't prove. Like, yeah, you burnt my car. It's like, all right, let's get this out the way and get to what we're here for. They say that we could get a verdict as early as next week.
Yeah. His lawyer was closing today, and part of her closing said, this is a case about his real life relationships, and the government is trying to turn those relationships into a racketeering case. The evidence is going to show you a very flawed individual, but it will not show you a racketeer, a sex trafficker, or somebody transporting for prostitution. She also made a joke towards the jury about kidnapping and asked them whether or not they felt like they've been kidnapped.
Then I read something else that says if he is found guilty, then the government takes control of all of his assets.
Oh, wow.
What'd you say?
Yeah, that's true. Because they're going to say he got those assets. They're going to say he got those assets out of criminal.
Ill-gotten gains.
Ill-gotten gains. That sucks, though.
Off that alone, I would think they would charge. They would bring him back guilty, but it's in the jury's hands.
No, I think
on that they won't.
I think off of that they would bring him back innocent because they know that he didn't acquire those things through those means.
No, I take it back because it's on the jury. I thought it was a judge.
Right.
It's on the jury.
He didn't acquire that shit through. No, not through that. Yeah.
This is an interesting statistic, though. In 2018 to 2022, federal prosecutors won convictions in more than 97% of the cases in which RICO was the most serious charge filed.
It doesn't speak to how many
went to trial.
Or how many actual, it just says they got convictions on the RICO charge.
Let me just stop this video real fast. Over the past several weeks in Lower Manhattan, Sean Diddy Combs has faced a dramatic federal trial. Prosecutors accused him of orchestrating a long-running criminal enterprise spanning nearly 2 decades. They say he used his fame, wealth, and influence, backed by bank records, audio, text messages, and eyewitness testimony, to control and manipulate individuals for illegal activities.
Not just that, most people start pleading out.
They plea out, yeah.
Getting looked at 200 years,
right.
Niggas will plea out for 27 or 30, you know what I'm saying? So
that's still a win for them.
Yeah, that's still.
And in some of the recent cases, we've started to question what a RICO is and how it applies versus them going after the people that RICO was intended for.
Yeah,
right.
So it says, even if Combs is the only person indicted as part of a broader criminal scheme, which would be the RICO, prosecutors can still argue that he relied on the help of others, such as personal assistants, bodyguards, and business associates. Some of the witnesses against Combs have testified in return for immunity for prosecutors or have spoken with federal authorities during proffer sessions, during which the statements they make cannot be used to prosecute them. So in the summation that I heard, they listed a bunch of the people that they feel were the enforcers. You know, the assistants, bodyguards.
They didn't get charged. None of them got charged.
Yeah, but that's what they're basically saying is that prosecutorial fucking witnesses, they gained immunity by way of testifying. So even though these are named individuals who are part of the criminal enterprise, they've escaped prosecution because of immunity.
Yeah, but they weren't.
Yes and no. They were never
forced
charged
and coerced. Yes, you can. Yes, we're giving you immunity because we want to hear your complete and truthful testimony, even with your involvement.
Yes.
Your involvement doesn't say you were forced, coerced, pressured, and I think that's where a bulk of this case lies. He's not. Again, he's not on trial for domestic violence.
Right. But no, I want you to come in and rat on this nigga. I want you to rat on him. In ratting on him, you might implicate yourself. So we're gonna say, Joe, you was riding with Ish when Ish shot the nigga. We not mad at you. We gonna give you immunity for your testimony against Ish. Joe never got indicted. Nobody else got indicted. Nobody else got charged with him. So that's my thing when they start talking about it being a criminal enterprise and organization. If it's an organization, then there are some other guilty parties within the organization and nobody ever else got charged. That's the part that, again, I'm not.
Well, that's the thing about witnesses for the prosecution and them offering immunity. Like, they look at that as the lesser of two evils. We don't want you. As the assistant, the bodyguard, we don't want you. You're not the big fucking fish. That's the big fish. That's who we're going after. So
over the past 7 weeks in a Manhattan courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs has been at the center of a federal trial that's grabbed headlines nationwide. Prosecutors painted a picture of a powerful celebrity who used his status, money, and connections to build a hidden operation behind the scenes. They claim Diddy ran a long-term organization built on control and manipulation, using texts, audio recordings, financial records, and witness accounts to argue that he created a network to benefit himself while others were hurt in the process. Much of the attention focused on 2 key witnesses. One was his former girlfriend Cassie, and the other was a woman referred to as Jane. Both women gave emotional testimony describing being pushed into disturbing situations that allegedly happened during private parties. One of the most talked about moments in court was when video footage from a Los Angeles hotel was shown. It appeared to show Diddy involved in a confrontation with Cassie in a hallway, which prosecutors used as part of their larger case about control and intimidation. According to the government, this was not about isolated mistakes but rather a system of behavior where people around Diddy were paid or persuaded to stay quiet, lie, or even assist him. They say his fame gave him cover for years, but the evidence finally speaks for itself. Prosecutors also said that 34 witnesses came forward to support the claims, describing similar patterns of manipulation, secrecy, and fear. The defense offered a completely different take. They said the relationships in question were based on personal choices and mutual consent. They argued that Diddy may have lived an unusual lifestyle, but nothing illegal took place. According to the defense, the accusations rely too much on old stories, unreliable memories, and personal drama. Diddy chose not to testify, and his legal team insisted that the case was built more on emotion than solid proof. They urged the jury to look past the headlines and focus on the facts, which they believe fall short of proving guilt.